There's a lot to unpack here.
The GEKKO Estate, Episode 2, Unfinished Business!
Last summer, I left my home behind to go on a whirlwind tour of America, visiting all kinds of friends and people that I'd never met before. That summer, I was also a major guest at 2 major anime conventions, and I had based my entire summer around the fact that I was going to these 2 cons. I had based my trip around what times would be convenient to make it out to California for each of these. One being Anime Expo, for which I was a digital influencer guest. But at Crunchyroll Expo, I was a major guest, fully fledged. I don't think this is not a Crunchyroll. I don't know where my lanyard is for Crunchyroll Expo. This is another con that I was a guest at more recently. It's going to be important to this story later. I'm trying to keep these intro sections short and not have too much extraneous information. So just know that I'm going to talk about all the cons in this video. I'm going to talk about all the interactions I've had with the industry and all the interactions I've had with other people doing YouTube. But first, I had to address the ending of the meta hole. This is the biggest unfinished business of all, and it will lead into a lot of what we're going to talk about later. But I was going to film the finale of the meta hole before we moved away, before we left the house, while it was completely empty. And I was going to go through a lot of unfinished business about my experience living there, my experience as an internet celebrity in the time that I lived there, because there was a lot to say about that subject. But first, let's watch the last few clips that I filmed of the meta hole. I did like the whole first 15 minutes of it before I fucking had to bail. So let's watch that, and then we'll reconvene here. And, you know, fuck structure, I guess. I literally packed up all of my shirts. So, this is finally happening. It's time for DigiGet's Mail, stuff you find while cleaning out the closet edition. Today we've got a package from Raphael in Germany. Very cool presentation. Dear Digi, the book I'm sending you in this mail isn't quite an anime magazine or a manga. Instead, it is the translation of a Japanese light novel, only that the light novel doesn't exist. As someone who knows about light novel culture, I think you would enjoy it. It is hilarious, it's sexual, it's over the top in an insane way, and yet it has perfect internal consistency, and it's short enough to knock out in an hour. Unrelated, I added one of the only 3 albums I've ever bought a physical copy of. I did it with the intention of sending it to a YouTube reviewer, but I then stopped caring about him, so I kept it. But I have no use for it. It's one of my all-time favorites, quite out there stuff. You'll know 3 minutes into the first song whether you'll like it. I'm not that big a fan of anime, though I do have some knowledge of anime culture because there's this one anime YouTube guy whom I've been following for 4 or 5 years. But there are 3 things I appreciate a lot that I know through you. They are in ascending order of importance: House of Leaves, K-On!, and Studio Ghibli, who are honestly too fucking pure and authentic for this world, but I'm glad we have them. Honorable mentions to Steins Gate and the band Paysage de Heaver. The idea of a universe in which I don't know Spirited Away is deeply saddening to me, so thank you for making me not live in that universe. There's also a second letter somewhere in here. Please do not read that one on camera. There is nothing private in there, but it is much too serious and totally unfit for an unpacking video. Thanks. Hope you enjoy. Agbtish? Cheers. I have no idea what that Agmatish is supposed to be. The other letter was about futurism. Thank you, Rafa, for those beautiful gifts. This next letter comes from Matthew Baptista in Beverly Hills, California. I feel like I've heard this name before. Oh, there's a pair of 2018 glasses. I must have got this at the start of the year. Happy holidays. On behalf of everyone at Studio 71, we wish you and your family all the happiness for the holiday season and throughout the coming year. Hey Conrad, here's to an amazing 2018. Happy holidays to you and yours. Matt. Studio 71, huh? Here's to a wonderful 2018 indeed. April of last year, I signed up with a multi-channel network for the first time in my YouTube career. I'd been avoiding it the entire time because I didn't really understand what the benefits were. It seemed like all I ever heard about them was horror stories. Nobody was ever like, oh, my MCN did this or that, except for when it was copyright issues. People seemed to somehow use their MCNs to help them get through copyright issues, though what I eventually realized is that people who believed their MCNs were doing something for them were just naive. I think that a lot of the time what an MCN was doing to alleviate copyright issues was like less than what they could have done themselves by just filing a counter notification on YouTube. So like I never really got the sense that they were worthwhile. So I get these guys sending me email after email, as they all do, but these ones are getting more and more personalized each time, trying to address me like, you know, as someone who has consumed my content or at the very least appreciates what I'm doing. And they're telling me that they're more of a talent agency really than an MCN, that they began as a talent agency and the only reason they set up an MCN was because there were people who they were like becoming agents for who would later sign up with other MCNs. And like, you know, it meant that they weren't getting any cut of that money, so they decided to make themselves an MCN as well. So I was like, alright, you know, they talked a lot of game. They talked like they were going to give me a lot of opportunities, especially merchandising. I was like, really, hey, I need to merchandise. I should have been suspicious of these guys. I mean, I was, but I should have been more suspicious of these guys over the fact that I asked them if they could help me set up an LLC, and they had never heard of what that is. It's a very basic level business thing that like people in my position usually set up. But I'm lazy and never figured out how to do it. So I'm finally doing that just on my own. But with the help of my new secretary, who's actually helpful in all the ways that this company was supposed to be. They told me they would have like monthly meetings with me to discuss like the way I present things, you know, kind of like SEO optimization stuff, I guess is what they were offering. I never really completely understood the nature of what they hoped to help me achieve other than to help guide me in some way towards, you know, marketing myself better, I guess. Because marketing has always been a big issue for me, that I clearly have something to offer because a lot of people gravitate towards it, but I don't know how to push it to new audiences. You know, I don't know how to like reach outside of my sphere, outside of the sphere of YouTube, Reddit, and like Twitter. So, and specifically the anime spheres of each. So I signed up with these guys, and like in the process of me signing up for them, I was talking to one guy consistently, but once I finally signed up, they introduced me to this other dude, Matthew Baptista. And this guy didn't seem to know the whole story of what was going on with me the way the other guy did. He didn't seem like to have communicated with that guy very much, and he didn't ask me nearly as many as the same questions. So whereas the other guy had a really good sense of what I was going for because he had talked to me a bunch of times, asked me lots of questions, you know, like was hype about all the different projects I was doing. I signed up 3 channels with them. The main channel, After Dark, and DigiBros, because they were excited to help me with all 3 of them. Like, that was the way it was presented to me. This guy didn't seem to know I had 3 channels. This guy didn't seem to have watched more than a couple of my videos. And I expected him to have like follow-up conversations where he would learn more, but that never happened. I think I talked to this dude one time. We tried to organize further meetings, but I kept missing them, and then he just wouldn't send follow-up emails. He just didn't schedule me another meeting. Like, that first month, I missed it. And then, like, I don't remember ever hearing a second one. Now, there was never any discussion of how to run my channel, anything like that. And they always presented this idea that, like, if I came to them, they would do something for me. But, like, they take my money whether I come to them or not. You know, like, they take 10% of my ad revenue. And the way that it works is basically that you give them permission to, when Google takes your ad rev, they send it to them. Like, when Google pays out the ad revenue, it just, instead of paying it to you, they pay it to those guys, and then those guys pay it to you. It takes an extra day or two to get your money, and you get less than you would have. They have done literally nothing for me. Moreover, they got hacked less than a month after I joined by the OurMine hacker group. You can look them up on Wikipedia. They're a famous marketing hacker group. They literally market themselves like, I don't know if they're trying to provide a service or like they sell like anti-hacking manuals or something like that. It's just a scheme where they hack MCNs because they have a lot of data. Because MCNs, you can enable them to go and change the title and description of your videos. Now, I had this enabled, but you have to, like, give them permission to do it. You know, like, he wasn't going to just go in and change my shit. You can give them permission to go in and just change your shit willy-nilly. I obviously would not do that. But, like, you know, because they had that option, OurMine hacked them, changed the titles and descriptions of my videos. Anything that had come out in the last 3 months got its name and description changed. And you know how often I put out videos, so this was dozens of videos for me. And I had no backup of the titles or descriptions. And so I was contacting, like, Studio 71, because I found out pretty quickly that they were the ones who had been hacked. And I was like, you know, are you guys doing something about this? And they were like, we're going to fix it. We're going to, like, revert all the titles and descriptions back after a couple days. However, a couple of things became clear. First of all, the first problem, a couple days. Like, I have a lot of videos tied up in this. Some of them brand new that are still, you know, gaining traction on YouTube. And their title is now OurMine Hacker Group or something like that with a link in the title. So I wasn't willing to wait the amount of time it was taking them to fix this, so I manually went, and first I fixed just the ones from the past month, and then when a few days passed and they still hadn't fixed it, I just went through and manually changed all of them. And most of them I just changed to say, like before I even did that, before I actually fixed them all, I went through all of them and wrote in title and description under repair, because I didn't want the link to the hacker group to be there. However, Studio 71, when they finally were like, we're going to fix all this stuff, they said, oh, make sure you don't change the title and description because we're going to use like a search function to search for anything that has that and change it back. And I'm like, I couldn't have waited that long. So that was the first thing that happened, and the last thing that happened with me and this group. Later on, this dude tried to there was some new podcasting service that was like a phone podcasting thing that was meant to be like for 5-minute podcasts, where you just like rant into this thing for 5 minutes, and it's like a short form like a Twitter for a Reddit for podcasts, basically. And they were going to offer me some kind of paid deal to do like one podcast a week on this service and pay me, I don't know, a couple $1,000s, and we never negotiated price, but he offered this to me. I said, yeah, I'll do it. He said, cool, I'll send you the details. Never sent the details. Months later, I started talking to the guys at the Flying Colors Foundation. The Flying Colors Foundation was interested in doing a lot of the same things with me as Studio 71. They wanted to help me with merchandising, they wanted to help me with branding, and stuff like that. They made a lot more offers to me a lot more quickly. They were like adamant about helping me out. They were working in the field of anime, so they were interested in what I had to do. And one of them worked in the field of rap, which I'm also involved in. So like, they were excited to work with me, regardless of what Studio 71 ultimately was. They constantly insisted on how much they liked working with me, because like I was the only person who seemingly was like into the idea that they were presenting like in a big way, like I really liked the idea they were going forward with, so I think that's why they enjoyed working with me, obviously. But Studio 71 never did anything, and eventually, while I was talking to the Flying Colors guys, they were encouraging me to like try to get out of this contract because they'd heard me talk about it and complain about it, and so they were like, why don't, like, so I went ahead and I sent Studio 71 an email where I was like, hey, you guys haven't done fuck for me. What happened to that opportunity? What's going on? And the dude was like, oh, that opportunity like fell through. They changed their like advertising platform they were going to use. I was like, why didn't you just tell me that? And then he was like, if you schedule a meeting with me, we can hash out whatever. And I never did. I never scheduled a meeting because I didn't have time. Because I work constantly, as anyone would know. And the fruits of that labor, what few fruits there are when YouTube actually allows me to have ad revenue on a video, gets siphoned by these guys. And it is actually a lot. Like, I act as though I only make money from Patreon because that's a good way to trick your brain into thinking you have less money than you do, but I make over $1,000 a month on YouTube, so at least $100 from is being taken from me every month by these guys, and they've done literally nothing. They've taken probably $1,500, no, probably more, probably over $2,000 from me, and done nothing. So fuck you, Studio 71. Do not ever send me another card. Please take me off your fucking contract. I'm gonna contact you about it soon. Don't worry. You motherfuckers. I hope your fucking company burns in hell. You did nothing for me except take my fucking money. Fuck you. No, there's not gonna be another meeting to negotiate it. Fuck you. Way back when I filmed episode 1 of the Meta Hole in this house, the biggest purpose of it was to experiment with like what can I do visually in this house, because a huge element of my vlogs that I was taking seriously was like layout and design of my room in the old vlogs. Like I had whole vlogs just dedicated to rearranging the room, and I had all these like conceptual areas, like parts of the room where I would do certain styles of vlogs, stuff like that. There was just like a lot of detail to it. It was because it was a space I had been in for like 9 years straight, and it just had this massive, unyielding collection. The room was so big I could do anything in there, like whatever I wanted. Granted, it was usually a clusterfuck, but like, because I would have just equipment set up everywhere all the time, but like that made it a great shooting environment. So that was the environment that Insomnia Analysis was made in. Even though you have the sensation of it all being one room, because it's, obviously a bedroom, I could just shoot it from so many angles and do so many weird things with it that it was really entertaining. So I moved into a new house, and first of all, I didn't have all the decorations up, so I knew it wasn't going to look amazing, but I was like, well, with at least the furniture in place, and like, we know the shape of the house, what can I do? Now, there were a lot of immediate concerns. There are things I literally haven't been able to do because I live here. First of all, we're in a townhouse, which means we have neighbors immediately on each side of us. Now, the way it's laid out is it's a split-level house. So the top floor is 2 rooms. One is the bedroom, one's the office. Each one shares a wall with a neighbor. Then the downstairs is just one big open living room, dining room space, so it also shares walls with both neighbors. So there's nowhere you can just be like unabashedly loud here. And it just feels uncomfortable even to do, like even right now I feel like I'm probably audible to the walls, like it's not the most private space, which is why we're moving into a proper like standalone house now. But when I was shooting it, it was just like I couldn't get that many angles. Like there wasn't a lot of ways to shoot my office because the office is small. It was, like I pretty much captured as many as I could in like that first video, and I had to repeat the same camera angles all the time the whole time I was living here, and like, you know, I got as creative with it as I could, and we rearranged the room at one point, so that, you know, allowed for some more changes, but just all around, it was not like a space that allowed for much in the way of imagination with how it was used. Because we had crammed so much equipment into there. And then the bedroom was like usually just covered in clothes and stuff, and it's not really a room that like it was aesthetically interesting to film in. And once we did finally put up posters in it, it was all porn, so I can't really show that on the internet, on YouTube. So like the downstairs, meanwhile, was just too echoey. The audio was really bad, and I felt uncomfortable because again, I felt like I could be heard by the neighbors, and like it was just pretty much a big empty space with a couch in the middle and like a little corner where we had put up some anime stuff. The thing is, we always planned to live here for 1 year. Like, that was the plan when we moved in, was like, we're gonna move in for 1 year because she was trying to finish school. So, like, she just had a year left. Initially, when we were dating, she thought she was only gonna have 1 semester left, but like, she ended up having to take another year because she had failed one of her classes. So I was just like, fuck it, I'll move up to Rochester, and we'll spend a year together, and, you know, sort out what life together is in a comfortable location close to your family before we go and venture off into starting life together in some strange town that neither of us has ever been to, you know. Because that's what I had been planning to do. I was just planning to leave home and go to some fucking big city. And we ended up changing the city we were going to halfway through because we got sold on it really good by Munchie, and Amanda's wanted to live there her entire life. So, you know, it seemed like a good choice.
Hi?
I thought I heard her saying my name, but I don't know what she wanted. Anyways, so yeah, like, because we knew we were only going to live here for a year, we never wanted to do anything too crazy with it, like with the downstairs. We didn't want to like buy too much new stuff that we'd have to then transport, you know, to the next place. We'd rather just wait till we were in that place and then buy stuff based on that space. So like, ultimately, again, it just didn't leave much in the way of being able to film indoors, and that made me less encouraged to do vlogs because like I couldn't find fun ways to shoot them. But it was way more conducive to podcasts because I had put up tons and tons of sound paneling, and the room sounded really good from anywhere in the room. You know, and it was full of just like posters and stuff. So even if you wanted like a video element, you could just do like a long form thing there very easily. So like, as opposed to the rapid fire approach where I used to think of an idea, grab the camera, and find the weirdest angle I could in the room, or just like a convenient angle. Sometimes I would just do it in front of my bookshelves if I thought that it was like a really important vlog. Not so much for like visual reasons as just because that was the place that was easiest to stand in the room. Like, that was the place where I could pace in like kind of a little controlled area, and like it had a good lighting, you know, compared to other spots in the room. This house has always had great lighting, but like that changed the aesthetic of the vlog, and like some people were like, I don't like how the lighting's different, and it's like, well, I can't replicate having a giant room that light just gets swallowed in. It was hell to record in that room for the whole time. A huge part of the reason that Victor would not work with me for a lot of my early time is he just hated my room. He hated that you couldn't light it. He hated that it was too big and too spacious. You can't bounce lights in there easily. And it looks like dick on camera. And like, sure, eventually people just like, including myself, like eventually I incorporated the grunginess of the aesthetic into the content, and eventually people resonated with that. But early on, there were tons and tons and tons of experiments to try to make that room look good. You know, if you watch the old vlogs, like the old vlogs on Digibro and After Dark, like I tried my goddamnedest, you know, but I just cheap equipment, bad room. This house, literally, I can just open the blinds and I've got 10 out of 10 lighting because the rooms are so small and the windows are so big. So, like, you know, but does that aesthetically resonate with the audience in any way? You know, the way that it used to? I have no idea. I had no way of, like, I just didn't really want to take the time to figure it out. Like, I didn't think I'd be living here long, so why build it to be, you know, this.
Stop! I've been cleaning up fucking bathrooms all day.
And that's about when I realized I did not have enough time to film anymore, and therefore that is the end of the meta hole. Oh, hello there. Welcome to a very special place I like to call outside my house. You haven't seen a whole lot of that in recent times from me. See, not only as described in that meta hole video did I live in a tiny, tiny townhouse surrounded by people and it was really uncomfortable to record anything loud, I also couldn't really go outside because, again, it was a townhouse. You'd be extremely visible in your front or backyard by literally everyone around because we all share the same back and front yard. So going outside was deeply uncomfortable, and I only really did it early on when I was smoking outdoors all the time, but eventually when it got super cold outside, there was a new reason not to go out, which is that we were constantly under blankets of snow for about 6 entire months, because that's how Rochester is. Now, so this meant we couldn't really go out and, like, find places to film. Not that there were really any interesting places to film in Greece, which is the town in Rochester we were in. And I need to make you understand, because now that we don't live there anymore, I can dox the shit out of where I lived before. We were in the far northern point of the city. So Rochester is made up of a bunch of small towns. One of them is called Greece, and it's just a big suburb that's just a complete grid that basically goes from the city of Rochester up to Lake Ontario, and it, you know, just caps off there when it hits the water. We lived on the lake. So literally the far northern point of Rochester, in a townhouse that was so far away from, like, even the nearest gas station that it was impractical to walk there. And it was winter for most of the time, so you definitely are not going to walk there. And in fact, it was difficult to even get the car out because we'd have to uncover the snow every single time. So we just kind of holed up for most of the winter, especially after May left her job at Target and started working for me. We were just like, why even go outside? And I also was afraid to film outside because of how easy it would be for people to figure out my location. So at one point, late last year, a fan of mine, a patron, sent me a message with coordinates saying, is this your location? And I ran the coordinates into Google Maps and they were not. So I was like, okay, I'm still safe. But then he sent a Google Maps photo of the, like, right above my house, and was like, and like drew a circle around it, was like, is this one you? And I was like, well, fuck, how'd you figure it out? He said, well, you know, you had one video where you talk about how May works at a Target that's on the same road as you but 15 minutes away. You talk about living next to a bar that's like a restaurant, it's also a fancy restaurant, being like right next to your house. You say you're in a townhouse complex, you know, and just from a few other details, he had figured it out. And it just so happened that, like, when we first moved in, May had taken a photo of the mailbox because it had both of our names next to each other, and she thought that was cute. But it also had the number of our townhouse, and he was like, he said, that seemed too obvious, so I thought it might be a red herring. And I was just like, no one else considers this obvious. No one else would think that they had doxed themselves by giving these details, you know? But it made me a lot more paranoid, and I had to, like, the way he had figured out exactly which house it was is that in the vlog, the house the patrons built, there's a moment where you can see outside the windows for just like a split second, but there's a bunch of landmarks that he was able to, like, recognize from a top-down view on Google Maps, so he was able to figure it out. So obviously I'm going to be a lot more careful this time. Now I'm giving you no real visual information that would, you know, make my location obvious, but, you know, this is why we didn't film outside. Now consider the following. At this point, when I'd moved into this house, my life is entirely revolving around my relationship, pretty much. Like, this is what I'm excited about. It's what I'm spending all of my time on developing. It's where I see the core of my future relying, like YouTube and all this stuff. This can come and go. We don't know what I'm gonna have to do to be artistically viable 5-10 years from now. I don't know how much of my fickle ass audience is gonna still be there. Some of you guys have been following me for a real long time, and I know you guys will be around forever. But like, a lot of people come and go. So. But this relationship is something I want to last and to build on for the rest of my life. So, like, I spend a lot of this period laying down the foundation of that and not really being online. And, there was a period as the months went on where, like, because of interpersonal drama within the PCP, with the whole Mumkey thing, and the fact that I didn't want to talk about it for a lot of the time that it was happening just because other people were wrapped up in it, and I didn't want, I didn't want to end up speaking on behalf of somebody else and be wrong about something. And I ended up doing that anyways. Like, I made a bunch of mistakes in my video, the why Monkey was kicked from the PCP. Like, I named wrong names and stuff, and that stuff had to be clarified by the people involved later. But it had just come to a point where I didn't feel like I could go on not saying anything, and from this point forward, I would never let that happen again. I'm just going to speak up as soon as something's on my mind, because I just don't think that I knew exactly where I stood on certain issues at the time that this was all happening. And then once I eventually found that resolve, then that was when it was time for that relationship to end. Once I'd really come to terms with the fact that I disagreed with the way that he did things and didn't want to work with him anymore, then that, if we didn't do anything about it, then that was going to become a bigger problem in the future. If he has no intentions of changing the way that he operates and I don't like it, then, we shouldn't work together. But regardless of how compatible we might be in other ways. So, that blew up into a big drama. And that blew up into this weird cottage industry of people making videos about me because of the fact that fucking What the What spent so long and so much money and time promoting his series where he talks about me until it finally had enough views where it was click through for other stuff that contains the tag Digibro, not helped by the fact that I was tagging all of my videos Digibro, so this is all click through from my shit too. But then it got to the point where people who've never even heard of me were making videos about me just because they were trying to get on the drama bandwagon. And I was like, this is getting fucking ridiculous, And so I just kind of took a hiatus from the internet for a couple of months and was like, I need to go sort out, my art. And I really felt like I had gotten so mired in this idea of just trying to get content out all the time without thinking about it, just because my mind was on my relationship. It was not on art. It was not on... And there wasn't much I could do, again, in the house I was in. I just felt like this was only conducive to, just pump out podcasts all the time about whatever, because I don't have any bigger ideas, So, let's just flood the world with as much of my voice as I can. But, I took this time apart to really deep think about, what do I like from my videos? And that was where the Makoto Shinkai video and the... great anime director who time forgot video kind of came out of, that mindset. And then, going forward from there, the We've Accepted Mediocrity and Shintaro Kago rap were all right, well, now let's try to do something a little different, a little bit more me. And then it became well, I really want to push myself. I don't just want to make stuff that people go wow, that was a great Digibro video. I want people to I want the idea of what a Digibro video is to be something greater than what it is currently. When people talk about me, when people describe me, when people put me in a tier listing with other people, when I'm discussed in the same breath as Endless Jess or Munchie, to name some of my friends who, when people who are fans of them compare them to me, a lot of the things that I value are things that I don't find in my own work as much as I do in the work of some of my friends. And so, I have to bring that value back and make everything better. And that's what the last few months have been about, is just basically, getting all this together before this move. I keep hyping myself up, and I'm really sorry for that. It's just that like I've been silent for so long, and I don't know if it was a mistake to be silent all this time. I just felt like it wasn't safe to open my mouth until I had everything figured out, until I was already moved, until everything was set up and I was confident going forward that like I knew what I was doing, that I hadn't failed before even getting started. Because if this move had fallen through, which like we barely made it through by the skin of our teeth. If you want to hear the whole story, $5 patrons get to listen to the 2 weeks review, the bi-weekly podcast where I describe what's been going on in my life for the last 2 weeks in detail. I often have May on there as a guest because we do most of this stuff together. So we tell this entire story of our like by the skin of its teeth move over the last 2 episodes of that. And if it had fallen through, we were making plans about what we were going to do if we had to move into her dad's basement for a month while we got a new place, and like all these insane plans I had to spend literally all of my money on a Kickstarter in order to fund PCPHQ, other things like this. Like, if those things had happened, then it would have vastly changed the nature of what my content was going forward. So I didn't want to talk about it. But now I can. Alright, well, I think the most effective way to go about this is just going to be to go down the list of all the different groups that I've worked with and tell you the stories of what it's been like working with them, because that's the story I aims to tell with this episode. I want to show you sort of the two sides of the coin of internet celebrity. The dangers that come on both sides of the pendulum of either being extremely independent or extremely corporate, as well as being extremely personal versus extremely impersonal. If you are someone who tries to be, very personal with your audience, very intimate, to say a lot about yourself, you're going to run into lots of drama. You're going to have people finding out where you live. You're going to have that, like, closer interaction with the world, and navigating that is very difficult. And I'm hoping to open new pathways in doing it, especially with the live stream that should have started yesterday at the time you're seeing this, but later today at the time I'm recording it. I'm interested to see what that's going to result in, and maybe we can change the way that people interface with the internet culture. We'll see. Anyways, let's talk about each of these things. So, when you become a big YouTuber, basically when you break like 10,000 subs is when you start getting the constant offers in your emails. Most of your offers are either to join some random multi-channel network, all of which are shit, and the other is lots of emails from really small-time, like, internet schemes, like money-making schemes that are trying to market with you because they have figured out that it works. For some reason, nobody else has. For some reason, major companies haven't figured out how to market through YouTubers in any kind of sensible way, and we're going to get into that. But you'll get people like the Naruto Online sponsorship, who just kind of went to any anime tuber who had a video that had any kind of significant views and offered them like $4,000 to peddle this Naruto game, and like Mother's Basement did it. Pedantic Romantic did it. A whole bunch of other channels who do sponsorships regularly anyways obviously did it. But, like, that was offered to me. Jeff really tried to, like, get me to do it because he was like, oh, it's such a big opportunity, a money-making opportunity. I'm like, what, am I going to pretend I care about Naruto Online? Like, he managed to somehow find enthusiasm to talk about it, but I was not going to find any such thing. And that was already pretty late into my career where I'd already stopped giving a fuck. But, like, you get emails from stuff like that constantly. Especially after you hit 100,000. Because when you hit 100,000 subs, it's kind of when YouTube starts taking you seriously as somebody who is a YouTuber. Like, that's when you should get the first plaque. I never got mine for some reason. But, it's where, like, the algorithm starts taking you more seriously. Just, in general, you get, like, a huge boost. Like, when people hit 100K, they almost always then gain the next 25K like that, because the system just starts promoting them harder. So, you gotta really ride that, though, in order to, like, really grow in a major way. So I get tons and tons of offers like that from just minor companies, and, I also get tons and tons of offers from just small time people, like independent artists, independent YouTubers who want to work with me. Now, back in the early days of my career on YouTube, I was in the My Little Pony community, as you may well know. And, like, I didn't treat my own presence there as being all that different from having been an anime blogger for the last 7 years, like, or however long it had been at that point. Like, in the anime blogosphere, I was used to, being friends with other bloggers, collaborating with people, talking to people of, anywhere in the community. Like, I was sort of used to being a community figure, even though I had never been, like, famous, So as I got big in the pony community, it created this weird situation where I simultaneously was treating myself like a community member, but then I also was being treated like a famous person by a certain subset of people, because frankly, the My Little Pony fandom skews young, it skews autistic, and, like, it skews people who use Skype 24/7 as their means of communication, at least at the time in 2013, where I was, like, really growing in this fandom. So I would take offers from everybody. I would do interviews, random 12-year-olds with 12 views. Like, if you go back through the every YouTube video featuring Digibro playlist, I've added all this shit to it. Like, far enough back, you'll find, like, weird-ass interviews I did with, like, little kids, or, like, any random person who offered me to be on their podcast or radio show. And that's how I got on the Pub Crawl, which I'm still on. It's been going for 5 years, and that was just some radio show that some kid asked me to be on, basically. That kid being GEKKO, who I later did other videos with, but haven't heard from him in years. So, yeah, like, these are the kind of random offers I was doing early on. And, like, some of the first people to reach out for me with, like, more serious offers, like companies I'd actually heard of. First of all, there was NerdCube or NerdBlock. It was one of the random, they send you a box of shit companies. And I did a video for them, because they had, like, it was, like, just this month they were doing an anime-themed one. Like, they just do nerd cubes in general, but this was their anime one. And it seemed like, I don't know, I couldn't tell if the products were actually real and official, because they were products that didn't seem to exist in any other context. Like, now, granted, I have this amazing RX-78 t-shirt of the Gundam that you've probably seen in my videos before, that people ask me about all the time where I got it. As far as I know, it only came from that Nerd Cube. I mean, you can buy it on, like, Amazon or on eBay, I think, rather. But, like, it's not a regular shirt sold by Bandai. And there was also, like, a Cowboy Bebop head sleeve that unfortunately I lost at, like, a convention or something, which was also cool. Everything else in there I think was shit. But, like, that t-shirt alone was honestly worth having done the whole endorsement, because I love that shirt. But the attitude I've always had in all of these videos and all the ads I've done has always been, like, dismissive and, like, making it very clear that I would never buy these products personally, because I wouldn't. Like, and it's really funny the way that these companies pitch themselves to you, because they prey on self-importance. They prey on YouTubers' sense of, like, oh, I get to have a deal, which means I must be hot shit, even though what they're giving you is nothing. Like, first of all, the first Cube guys, the first Nerd Block or whatever thing that I did, all they sent me was just a free Nerd Block. They didn't pay me for the endorsement. My audience was massive at this point. Like, I could have sold tons of those if I, like, was, really seriously endorsing it. But, like, they were paying me in a box that cost, like, $20, $25 to buy, and it's already overpriced shit. Like, I know that the worth of the items is not that much. That's the whole point of those boxes, is that it's a bunch of really cheaply made plastic shit. And yes, individually all those items are sold for a lot more than what you would buy in the box, but they are all shit. It's like a bunch of pop figures and stuff that's like $15 for, like, a mass-producible piece of plastic that doesn't even move, that probably costs 10 cents to make, Like, they can just charge whatever they want for it because it's pop culture and people are paying for the characters, not for the actual product, So, when you get one of these cubes, it's like, oh, $25, and it's like, it's an amount of stuff that would have costed you $90 to buy individually, but it's worth like $3, you know, in terms of how much it costs them to manufacture, and in terms of how much I would actually pay for the items in these boxes if I had to, because I wouldn't buy any of this stuff. But like, they would send me a box. I'd basically say that in the video, but I'd be like, hey, if this is your thing, go for it. I don't think anybody ever signed up for any of the boxes that I advertise, because like, my audience wouldn't be into that stuff. My audience are people who are more like me, who would think this is dumb shit. Probably. I don't know. Anyways, so there was also the Viewster box. Viewster was a weird one, because this was... I think it was somehow tied to Daisuke, which was the streaming service that still is up, I think. The Daisuke streaming service is like Aniplex's own streaming service, where they post like the Monogatari series and like other shit that they, like, powerful IPs they own. And I think they were the ones who were doing the Viewster box. It only lasted a few months, and they were trying to make like a really big deal about it, like being some big cultural event that they were launching this box. No one gave a fuck about this box. Like, there was each month they would do like a different anime. So the first month it was like Naruto month. So if you don't care about Naruto, you're not going to do that. There was a Kill la Kill month, and that was the month that I got. And like, I was hyped to get that box because I love Kill la Kill, and I got that big ass Mako towel, I think, from that box that that, you know, people always ask me where I got it from. There you go. It was from a Viewster box. But like, I would never buy that on my own. That towel probably would be sold for like $60 at an anime convention, and like, it's worth nothing, you know. So, and they sent the manga. The Kill la Kill manga sucks. Like, its only reason for its existence is to sell a tie-in manga to Kill la Kill. Like, yeah, all tie-in manga too. Like, the other nerd block came with Neon Genesis Evangelion Angelic Days. Like, also, not even, was it Angelic Days or Shinji Ikari Raising Project? Either way, it's garbage. They're both dog shit, you know, because they exist to sell a manga with Eva characters. So anyways, I dropped my card. All these cubes, I think, are dumb. There was one that was Japanese snacks. That was fun. Like, I ate all the snacks on camera. I think that one is still up, actually, because I eventually unlisted these. They're probably still in the every YouTube video featuring Digibro playlist, but, you know, like, I never would buy any of these products, and I made that very clear in the video. So that was the boxes. None of them ever paid me any actual money. I think one of them had a link. I think it might have been Viewster that had like a link where if anybody had signed up, I would have got $5. But the boxes were like $30 a month, so nobody signed up for that shit. Really stupid. So then we've got Crunchyroll. This is like kind of the big one. Crunchyroll has no idea how to work with YouTubers. They don't understand how YouTube works at all. They are unfortunately in a position where the Japanese companies that they work with have them by the balls. Because the Japanese companies are all old and shit. All the production committees and everything, they have very outdated views of how to do things, how to market themselves, and they have outdated views about like what people want from anime, I think. So Crunchyroll finds themselves in a position where they have to buy shows as parts of packages. You know, they can't always get the rights to the shows that they want the rights to because of the fact that they are packaged in these weird ways. Or they just run into lots of issues that come from, like, they are so subservient to the Japanese companies because they kind of want to kiss ass to them to bring, like, legitimacy to their platform, I think, and be inviting for those companies. But it just means that they're not doing anything to help evolve the way people actually, like, produce anime. Like, they're just kind of, nudging themselves into the cycle of what's already going on without really changing anything. Like, the same issues that regular productions are had on productions that Crunchyroll assists with, as reported by everybody. So, I just don't think they know how to, like, they want to work with everyone in the community, and they want to work with the Japanese companies, but because they're trying so hard to be a squeaky clean company and the biggest anime streaming site and put a lot into marketing, they can't really, step on anybody's toes. And when it comes to promoting YouTubers, like, so I signed up with a Crunchyroll deal, and initially the idea was that, like, I had this video series called 10 Must-See Anime You Can Watch Right Now, where I recommended anime that were available for legal streaming, and it was a pretty popular series on my on the main channel. It was just like a simple vlog series, so it was very easy to do. It basically gave me like an excuse for free content, even though I didn't do a lot of them because I didn't feel I could patron mark them. Like, I wouldn't patronize those videos because I didn't think they were analytical enough. So, like, I had this series, and eventually Crunchyroll contacted me, and they were like, let's do this as a Crunchyroll series. Like, you just promote 5 Crunchyroll shows, and we'll give you, like, you let us know what shows you want to cover. We'll give you footage that you can use for those shows in your video, that, like, you have permission to use. And just put your link in the description, and you'll get money from the link. So I did that. It didn't really amount to much. Like, I made a little bit of money, whatever, the video got some views. I didn't even end up waiting around for them to send me shit, because, like, the only show that I couldn't find the OP of, because I just used the way I edited the series is I would just throw the OP of each show into the thing. I wasn't going to wait around all day for them to clear me on 5 different shows. So I was like, alright, here's the shows I'm using, whatever. Like, the only one they could actually even get me footage for was Is the Order a Rabbit, and it was like some weird preview footage from before the show even came out that didn't show anything about the animation or like what the show is actually like. So it's basically useless. So by the time they had even sent me that, I'd already finished editing the video anyways, like adding in all this, just using like whatever I found off of YouTube. So yeah, like I just thought it seemed totally useless, and like eventually the ad that I did that has made me crazy amounts of money is the one in the video How to Recognize a Terrible Anime in Just One Episode, where I make a joke about how Gate is really bad, but you can watch it on Crunchyroll. And I've literally made thousands of dollars off of that gag. Like I make like $175 almost every month off of Crunchyroll, even though my link apparently doesn't even work anymore, but somehow I still get paid occasionally for that video. Like, it's just that video that people are clicking on the link on. I guess that the link still works there, but it doesn't work anywhere else. I don't fucking know. My link doesn't seem to work. But anyway, Crunchyroll never, like, contacted me about that. We've never worked together. And, like, after that first video I made, we did not keep in contact, like, me and the person who had been in contact with me. They never asked me to do another video. Like, eventually they got Jeff, and they started getting him to do bullshit like fucking analyzing a trailer for a show, which is horse shit. But, like, it pays. So, like, they never even offered me anything like that. They even give him more. Apparently, he was making, if you signed up for an account with his link, you'd get $8. Whereas with mine, he'd get $8 rather, and I only got $5. Crunchyroll doesn't even cost $8 a month. I don't know why the fuck he was getting so much more money than me, but I found that out later. Now, obviously, like, I'm not saying that it's not obvious why Crunchyroll wouldn't want to work with me, because I'm a fucking crazy man, but, like, they never were open about anything, and they just never really talked to me that much. And eventually, they did invite me to Crunchyroll Expo, kind of out of nowhere. They were just like, hey, you want to come down and fucking fight GEKKO? And I was like, okay. So, at Crunchyroll Expo, at the very least, everyone there knew who I was. Like, all the people who run that con, like, Miles was the one who invited me. He's, like, the PR guy of the con. He knew who I was. A lot of the, like, people on the staff, like, Canepa was there. I know who Canepa is. Canepa, like, he was on the panel with me and GEKKO, and he's works with Crunchyroll. What's her name? Fucking goddamn. Keiko Cat was there. She works for Crunchyroll, and I knew who she was, and she obviously knows who I am. So, like, there was connection there, and I got to talk to people and hang out, and Jeff was there, and GEKKO, who I hung out with for hours and had drinks with, and we had a great time. So Crunchyroll was a fun, interesting event, but, like, that was also where I met the Flying Colors Foundation, was because they were also ran a panel at Crunchyroll Expo. It's weird that, like, Miles, like, tries to act like they're just some weird, misguided troop of people that he has no idea what their deal is. They were at his convention, goddammit! They were there! That's why anybody's heard of them. I also met, I think his name is Austin Hardwick, an animator on Ruby who's really cool. I follow his Twitter. You're a cool guy, dude. If you happen to see this video for whatever reason, you're one of the coolest people I met at Crunchyroll Expo. But anyways, so Crunchyroll Expo was a madhouse, and I hung out with Miles, and this is how I learned some of the stuff about like their package deals. At one point, we were all shit-faced, and he goes on some rant. I told him, don't tell me anything that you don't want to see on Twitter tomorrow, just as a warning. He went on some tear about why they didn't get Made in Abyss, and how he was mad that everyone says that like they were outbid, but that wasn't the nature of it. It had to do with like packages or something, and then he pointed at me and was like, you're not going to say that on Twitter because none of it's true. And I was like, I was so drunk I did not know what he had said anyways. Like, I couldn't actually follow his story, so don't worry, Miles. I have no idea what you were trying to communicate other than that you were upset you didn't get Made in Abyss. But like, I just don't feel like Crunchyroll is in a position where they can really work with anime YouTubers. Like, it's really ludicrous to me that something like what happened with my Girlish Number video last year, which I've never been able to shut up about because it boggles my mind so much, that like I literally made a video called Anime of the Year Girlish Number, 24 minutes of gushing about a show nobody watched, higher view count on the video than the number of people who have the show even listed on my anime list, and it was taken down for copyright. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, why didn't Crunchyroll approach me to like pardon this video and like promote it? This video just literally talks about how great this anime is, and it got over like 150,000 views. Like, that could have translated to so much for Crunchyroll, and it got that much while being hamstrung at the height of its growth. It had hit like 65, 70,000 or something like that, and then it disappeared off the internet for 2 weeks, and somehow it's managed to climb even past that. But, like, I work with Crunchyroll. They know my email. We have a link together. Are they not paying any attention, to anything going on? Couldn't they have done something about this? But, like, I just don't think that they're, they want to have the appearance of working with anime YouTubers and like being a part of the community, but from what impression I've gotten from talking to Miles, he's the only person at Crunchyroll who actually knows the anime community at all. Like, he knows he watches everything, literally everything, way before it comes out. He watches shows that aren't even out yet. He's seen movies that aren't even announced. He watches shit fucks of anime. He knows everything. His entire desk is a tribute to Shirobako. Literally, he owns like thousands of dollars of Shirobako merchandise. The man worships anime, and he knows the community. He knows what's going on. That's why he hires on people like Canepa and GEKKO, who are not only smart and make good content, but are not off the handle fucking madmen, like me. But, he even understands that you can have a tinge of that because that's what the anime community's kind of all about. But, like, if it's just him and the rest of Crunchyroll doesn't get it, and granted, Miles thinks he's going to be president of Crunchyroll in 10 years, maybe it'll change. I don't know if he'll embrace me any more so than before, but like, maybe the Japanese companies will change at some point. And like Flying Colors, all they wanted to do was to change all this. Like, all they wanted was to improve communication between the industry and anime YouTubers, because as I said in the last video, the Anime Man had over 1 million subscribers, was able to put on the biggest otaku survey, and Flying Colors went like, well, that's money. Like, one of them was a guy who literally did all the data analytics for Loot Crate, which is like the biggest of all the fucking random box things. Like, people kept bringing that up like it was some kind of weird, shady detail. Why is that shady? That's what his job is. He just does data analytics for Loot Crate, and he was planning to sell data to Japanese companies. That was his whole leverage. That was the idea. That was the point. Was we were going to make these, like, they were going to make, I was going to promote, if I desired. I didn't end up really liking the survey they came up with that much, but, like, and I didn't like that they were just doing a survey because I wanted them to do a lot more. I talked about this in my Flying Colors video, but, like, the whole point of it was to show that anime YouTubers had a bigger reach than r/anime or Anime News Network or any of these other sources to put us in contact with Japanese companies and use that as promotion because we're easy to work with. We're clearly fucking rubes who can be bought out by sending us a box of cheap crap. So for fuck's sake, let's establish something. But it's yet to be done. So anyway, let's move on to the next guys. Amazon. I had a huge opportunity with Amazon at one point because of Anime Strike. When Anime Strike came out, they went around offering people endorsement deals. I really wanted to do a video on Lyrical Nanoha, what's it called? Nanoha Strike, actually. It was Vivid Strike. And I thought it would be funny to do Anime Strike, Vivid Strike. And, like, I was also excited about the show, and I had a lot to say about it. I made, like, a whole 20-minute vlog about it already. So I thought it would be really funny if I got an endorsement deal and I, like, endorsed the least popular, least known show on their platform. Not that anything on their platform was, like, super hyped that season anyway. But, like, they asked me to, like, for what I would charge them. I ended up only asking for, like, $2,000 because I was, like, sheepish about it. Like, I know that like, you're supposed to go to the website that tells you the worth of your channel and, like, how much you're supposed to ask for an endorsement. There's some site that does that. But it's obviously full of shit. Like, it's just like with Social Blade. Social Blade will always, like, estimate how much you make in ad revenue. And it's like, the absolute low end is, like, $10 above whatever I make every time. You know, and, like, the high end is something ludicrous that, of course, I don't make. But, you know, like, it's one of those sites that, like, does that, and it'll tell you, like, oh, you've got 10,000 subs, you're worth $3,000 from this company. And you're like, what? Like, no, I'm worth $10, maybe. Like, probably not worth anything. Like, I'm not actually going to sell a product, but anyways, they asked, I offered that. They asked me if I had, like, we went through, like, discussions. I had to sign non-disclosure agreements, which I guess I'm probably breaking right now, but this doesn't matter because this never went through anyways. They, like, all this shit, and then they were like, oh, do you have a sole proprietorship or LLC? And I was like, no, I haven't set that up yet. And they're like, well, we can't do the deal unless you have that. So, that fell through. Next up, all the other stuff, Anime Documakura Pillow. Anime Documakura Pillow is, I'm pretty sure, a scam. Anime Documakura Pillow is a website that sells, like, pretty much identical Dakimakura prints for, like, $50, which is dramatically cheap for a Dakimakura. Like, Dakimakura are usually pretty expensive, especially of, like, rarer characters, and I don't think they're official for the most part. Like, I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe it is a real business, but, like, when you shop on Japanese websites for Dakimakura, it's nothing like on this site. And they have every character conceivable, many of whom obviously wouldn't have Dakimakura. So I'm pretty sure it's, like, shady. But the funny thing is, they make offers to AniTubers very insistently. They'll send you, like, email after email. And people take it up just because they want free Dakimakuras. Like, because they'll give you a free one if you do it. Though they are very, like, I had to, like, really, like, kind of make demands to get more. Like, they were going to send me a free one, and then, like, but the pillow, the way they get you is that it's a $50 Dakimakura, but they also sell you a $50 pillow. And the pillow is the only pillow that's exactly the right size for the Daki. If you get, like, a regular store-bought Target body pillow, it's a little too big. I, of course, didn't fall for this gimmick, because they were like, oh, well, we don't want to send you the pillow, we'll send you an Opie mouse pad, and I was like, fine, I'll buy a pillow myself. So I did that, but a lot of YouTubers will take this deal, including me, just because they want to have a hilarious free Daki, and even if they aren't official, they look great. So, like, I think they were also supposed to give me a link or something to make more money. I don't remember if I just never got it or what. I don't know. All the other stuff I want to talk about is conventions. So I've been to several conventions as a speaker. The first convention I ever spoke at was GEKKO, which is a local convention to the Hampton Roads area in Virginia Beach, where I'm from. And I think I had a press pass, and I gave a panel with a guy named Pats, who's another anime blogger, at this con. just on the basis of we both had websites, we both had anime blogs, so we could show that we had like covered this material on some level before. It was a panel called Released and Relinquished, which was about shows that had been released in the U.S. but nobody bought them, but they were good. So we were just a recommendation panel, but it had a huge turnout, and it went pretty okay. So that was my first experience doing that. Then I think at Otakon I was a press at some point for having I started becoming press once when I had a YouTube channel at the very least, but at BronyCon, I got invited as a guest. Now, the weird thing about it, though, is that I never was a high-level guest at BronyCon, because just like in the anime community, no one really knew what to do with me in that community, because by the time I actually entered the Brony community, it had already been, going strong for 2.5 years, and the avenue that I got famous through was not one that had existed before me. Everyone had been very clear-cut, either who was famous in that community, was either a musician, an artist, or a voice actor or something, some kind of, personality. And, or a fan fiction writer. There were just, certain categories that people knew, of people in that category, but there had not been, a popular reviewer or analyst of the show. There were people who were doing it, but none of them were huge. I was the first one to get really big, so when I had my own panels at BronyCon, none of the other people who were famous there knew who I was. I wasn't treated as, a full-blown guest, In fact, I never even had my hotel comped any of the years I went to BronyCon. I was just, a guy who had panels and got into the con free, and a lot of my friends were, the other PCP guys, the second and third year we went. But, nonetheless, I was treated like a celebrity there. The humans who were at the convention, even though, the people running it had no idea who I was. The only reason I even had a panel was, I had submitted for one. I had asked, I think, the first year. And then by the third year, I was, invited by the woman who was running, or one of the people who was, running the guest people. But that's just because she was a fan of the PCP. It wasn't because, the rest of the convention had any idea who we were. She just wanted us to be there. So, this is always how it is for me when I go to cons. Is that, someone on the con board wants me there, but, it doesn't make that much sense for me to go to conventions, because the nature of my job is just I talk a whole lot about whatever. I don't know what people really want from me. I don't know if I'm supposed to go and give, an analysis of a specific anime. I don't really have a con panel built, I'm just good at talking unscripted, so I do Q&As, and people who are big fans of me like meeting me at these things, so that's cool, but, I don't really have much to offer to a con crowd outside of my own fans, and obviously not that many of them are going to be at some random convention somewhere in the country. But nonetheless, obviously, I did have a big fan turnout every year at BronyCon, but where I started going to conventions this summer was where things got weird. So, first of all, there was Anime Expo. At this, I was a digital influencer guest. Now, what that meant is they paid for my hotel and they paid for my ticket, but my hotel was a half-hour drive or a half-hour walk rather from the convention center, so it was a big pain in the ass to get to and from. They didn't comp my plane ticket, so I still had to pay a huge amount to fly out to the convention. And there wasn't an attendant or anything taking care of me. I had one panel that was very disorganized. The whole con is extremely disorganized. Anime Expo was a fucking nightmare. I don't like that con. I don't like LA. Everything about it kind of blew, except for hanging out with my friends. The only cool part was that I had a room with Best Guy Ever and Munchie. So, and I hung out with them and other friends and stuff. But so at that con, I felt even though I was a guest and I could use my guest pass to get me around. No one on the staff had any idea who I was. My panel had a pretty good turnout, because, Anime Expo is the biggest anime convention. There were gonna be enough people there. But, it got weirder when I went to Crunchyroll Expo, because there, which is just, a relatively small-time convention in Santa Carla, I think the reason they wanted me there is they knew I would make videos about it, that they knew it would appear on YouTube. It would, they invited a lot of YouTubers because they wanted to draw attention to this event, because Crunchyroll Expo is not big. It's a first-time convention in a random, offshoot part of San Jose. it's not like a bustling part of the city or anything. It's not something that people are going to go to just because they happen to hear about it as much, especially not in its first year. So it wasn't a huge convention, but they invited tons of media guests because they knew that those people would make videos about it and make a big deal about it. So I think that's part of why I got invited, and this whole idea of like me and Giga drama on stage would be like a, you know, an inciting thing to get people to pay attention. It's got like over 100,000 views. It was a great idea. But like, that's all I was there for. You know, they actually paid for my flight, I think. Now, granted, they got me like the cheapest flight possible, so I flew, you know, Coach United, which sucks, to the other side of the country. I didn't get to bring my, you know, I didn't get to bring May because these arrangements had been made so much earlier, and I don't even think I was granted a +1, which I would have very much liked because personally I had no desire to go to Crunchyroll Expo. Like, I had just moved into a new place. I was in a happy relationship. I didn't really want to go across the country and fly, you know, for 2 entire days so that I could spend 2 days at Crunchyroll Expo for like $100 that they were gonna give me, you know, as like my pay on top of like, you know, the appearance, like just covering my actual trip. So, you know, it was fun in a way because of like all the crazy stuff I got to witness and meeting Miles and all the other Anitubers and Giga and everything. That part was cool, but like overall the trip was not fun. And like I just again had that overwhelming sense of like do these people not realize how much more they could be doing with me? All right, I want you to just understand something. I bought this t-shirt. This is a Crunchyroll t-shirt. It's their character. And I thought, okay, I love this design. It's totally my aesthetic. I love the pink. I love big graphics. I love soft shirts. This shirt is perfect for me. And moreover, it's got a Crunchyroll logo right at the top of the shirt. So if I wear this in my videos where I talk about Crunchyroll, it will constantly be informing people about it. This is like basic shit that's everywhere. Like if you fucking watch NASCAR, they're wearing like a suit made of advertisements that have nothing to do with racing. But, like, that's how endorsements work. And it only makes sense that YouTube be like that. So I've got something that's related to me that I pay for, that I've repeatedly stated that I, like, you know, use the service. And, like, so why did I have to buy this t-shirt? Why didn't they just give me this t-shirt? It's so obvious. I could wear this in videos. I bought it myself so that I could sell my own Crunchyroll link better. And I didn't even end up using it ever again. Because, like, it doesn't seem to work for people. And also, I just don't give a fuck anymore. Because this fucking shit all pisses me off. So anyways, the last con that I went to was Toricon. Toricon was a local convention run by a college. And once again, the guy who was doing the guest relations just was a fan of me. Found out I was living in Rochester because I had tweeted about the Hammer Girl anime store, like right when I moved there, and that tweet got a lot of attention. The Hammer Girl people found out about that tweet. I almost struck up a deal with them, but because of the fact that I was only living in town for a year, I decided not to, especially because I knew it would compete with my Amazon Associates link, because like I was going to have Manga Mondays be like sponsored by Hammer Girl Anime, but I was like, that's not going to make them as much money because, you know, I don't have that many fans in Rochester. I met several fans in Rochester, but, like, I don't have a whole ton, as will be evidenced by this Toricon story. And I also figured that, like, it would compete with me just having an Amazon Associates link, which would make me way more money. Amazon Associates links are serious business. By the way, I've got one in the description. If you buy stuff with that link, I get kickback from it. Like, all you gotta do is just buy stuff like normal, but I just get free money, and like it makes you a fuckload of money. So I gotta start promoting that more. There's my Amazon link, probably somewhere down there, assuming that still works. But anyways, so yeah, I just figured it would interfere with that, so it wasn't worth doing. But like I did set it up. They knew who I was, you know. They were excited to work with me, but like, or would have been had I, you know, continued the opportunity. But anyways, so this guy who was running guest relations at Toricon, you know, got me there. And let me tell you, Toricon was by far the best guest experience because they actually treated me like a full-blown guest. So I got to go to the guest dinner the day before. I met Studio Trigger, who just I didn't even know were at the con until that night. So Shigeto Koyama and Hiromu Wakabayashi, I think is his name. Hiromi, oh god, I'm probably fucking up his name. And Tatun, they were all there. And yeah, I fucking met these dudes that are like idols of mine, you know, and Charles Dunbar, who's an amazing panelist. Finally got to ask him about his Kill La Kill book, which he says is coming out this December. So if you, or this year anyways. So if you remember, like 4 years ago when I wouldn't shut up about that panel where Charles Dunbar talked about Kill La Kill, he's finally making the book, or finishing it at some point, supposedly. I also asked Tatsun about the Patreon, because I think I was the first person to fucking say that Trigger should have a Patreon, and he told me that they're going through with it, so that's cool. But anyways, so, you know, they paid me $300 to do this convention. I had 3 panels. They went okay. Not a huge turnout. The con was honestly, like, such a, like, fucking labyrinth of a place. And, like, it was a weird anime convention. It was at a bad time of year. It was fucking super rainy and cold as fuck because April is still winter in Rochester. And it was outdoors because it was at a college. And it was really difficult to navigate. And it's a small-time convention, so it's not like there was going to be a ton of my fans there anyways. Still got an all-star treatment, had an attendant with me at all times. So what conclusions can be drawn from all of this? Mostly that it's a huge fucking waste of time working with any of these groups, because they just don't know what I'm doing. They don't know how to help me. And I think that the only reason people, you know, cling to all these endorsement deals, the reason people take deals with Crunchyroll, the reason people want Amazon associate links and all this other stuff is just that, like, this is what we know is the way forward. These are the deals other people have taken. This is the infrastructure that's in place. These are the companies who have shown a willingness to work with the internet, you know, communities. So that's the way it is. But, like, there's tons and tons and tons of other opportunities out there, as well as just ways that we can run our own ships better. Like, to me, I think all these endorsements I've taken have ultimately been a huge diversion. Like, for my audience, me going to Anime Expo did nothing for them unless they happened to be there and got the chance to see me while they were there. But even then, you get a fleeting encounter with somebody in the midst of a gigantic, shitty convention that I have no desire to go back to, and I doubt many of my fans who were there would go back unless they lived in the same area, because it was kind of a shit experience, I think, for most people, because it's boring. But, like, you know, for the people who follow me online, all they got is, like, a mediocre Q&A panel. You know, for the Crunchyroll Expo, like, because I didn't even have a +1 with me, I couldn't even do a good filming setup. So all the audio was garbage, and the camera work is non-existent. You know, at least the Anime Expo panel had, like, a sense of scope, and the Toricon panels, you know, had some camera work, but, like, I can't do that much by myself, and nobody wants to see the same old Q&A and hear me answer the same questions they've heard before. You know, or some rushed panel that I don't really have time to prepare because I'm not a panelist by trade. I make YouTube videos, and I have to make a lot of them. And that's all just, you know, 2 weekends that I could have spent working and making money and products that my audience actually cares about. It's, you know, and I didn't really get paid. Again, I got paid more in prestige than in money. And it's not even that I think that I was worth more to those companies. I mean, granted, I think that had they spent any time thinking about how to use me, then we could have had a more functional relationship and done something bigger. But, like, is it worth it? Like, for them or me, for us to have any kind of relationship? Not really. I think it's healthier for me to just communicate with my fans and be with them and not even try to take up endorsements, because I've never taken them very seriously. Now, the reason I did it all this time, because I've always thought it was a waste of time, is that I wanted to know. I want to know what's on the other side. I want to know what the people who are in the industry are doing, what the people who are making the money are doing, like what it feels like to be a part of that, to be in that circuit, you know? At Toricon, talking to Charles Dunbar is at, like, every convention. They are everywhere, like, constantly traveling, constantly, like, all summer, you know, getting paid to do, like, a lot of panels at these cons. And, like, that lifestyle of constant travel and constant new experiences and meeting new people, but, like, ultimately repeating your same message, you know, telling the same story over and over again at each convention is just the way that, you know, Dunbar lives. And, like, I don't really enjoy that kind of lifestyle. Like, I prefer to constantly be making new things, to constantly have, you know, like a new idea and to explore that. I'm more interested in that than I am necessarily in like being everywhere and doing everything. So like going to cons doesn't excite me that much, and ultimately, I think I'm you know, I'm kind of. Not to say that I'm never going to go to another con, because it is kind of fun, and especially if there was one that like my friends were going to go to, that would be a lot different. But like, just overall, taking endorsement deals has never benefited me as much as I would benefit spending the time that it takes to organize all that bullshit and do all the paperwork. If I just spent that time making another video, I'd make more money. If I spent the time I take going to a convention, you know, working on my channel, getting maintenance shit done, like, the amount of just maintenance it takes to run as many channels as I do, constantly making sure your videos are still online, you know, re-uploading, and just the process of uploading and rendering in the first place, tying up your computer all day, you know, just, like, being a content machine, you really need to make sure that every new tool you insert into the mechanism of how you work is, like, perfectly fit for the job. Because I feel like I've been throwing monkey wrenches into my process every couple of weeks for the last 5 years just by doing all this stuff. And, like, frankly, I'm ready to just excise it all. Now, some notes about the series. In the last video, I made this whole claim that if you check the playlist at 7 o'clock p.m. every day, there would always be a new video you hadn't seen before. Unfortunately, I didn't realize how fucking finicky YouTube's playlist system is, and just everything on YouTube. Today, all my, like, everything I click on has, like, a different title. It has, like, the title of the last video I watched or something. Constant glitches. I had it set up so you could add, like, YouTube videos to a playlist from other channels. Like, I can add a video as After Dark to a playlist owned by Digibro, but like it just didn't work. Like both videos I released yesterday, I had to go and re-add them as Digibro before they showed up in the playlist. So I can't make that promise about the 7 o'clock always being in the playlist. I'll try, but like I will have something out at 7 o'clock every day. So you either be on all the channels, be following all my shit, something's gonna come out. You know, I mean, yesterday it would have been the live stream as opposed to a video anyways. Like, I released a video at 4 and then the live stream was at 7. So, whatever. We're hashing it out. I just wanted to have a cool marketing gimmick, and YouTube fucked it up like they always do. So, anyway. So, obviously, if I'm not going to be trying to work with all those companies and all that other branding shit, then I need to form a stronger relationship with my number ones. So, let's have a conversation. I'm going to read through some comments on the previous episode of the GEKKO Estate. We're going to converse about it. Zen Huxtable said I forgot the Emp Lemon Jimmy Kimmel link in the description. I'll add it to this one. This is like classic After Dark, but high. You know, I think it's funny whenever people like say, oh my god, he's so much higher than he was before. Like, I don't think my persona has changed at all. Like, the joke of my content has always been that I acted drunk. Like, I branded myself hardcore around alcohol. It was my pinned tweet. My avatar had me drinking. I would start videos slurring all the time. Ah, what the fuck's up, everybody? It's time for... You know, like... I don't know. I guess I'm just high instead of drunk. I don't know if it makes that big a difference, though. Tysoon1234 says, I honestly think that just like how anime analysis is getting boring because everyone who talks about it brings nothing new to the table, I feel like anime itself is getting old to people. Sure, with all the normies it's getting bigger, but I think the hardcore anime fans are getting less and less because there's no tight-knit community anymore. Everyone's mom knows what anime is now, so the sense of being in a tight-knit community has gone away. Maybe I'm very wrong about this, but from my perspective, it seems like it's all going to either collapse in on itself or become a thing like the gaming community that's broken into tiny groups. It just feels like anime isn't as special anymore, and with all these cheap, boring shows being pumped out every season, that doesn't help. I seriously hope everything resets and anime isn't made as disposable anymore. How many shows can you remember caring about from last year, right? That's probably over 200 shows last year, and no one cares or talks about most of them. Anime is becoming disposable content, which sucks because it's so rare an amazing show comes out now. I guess what I'm hoping for is that anime becomes niche again so they can go back to fans caring about amazing shows and putting their money into them. I don't mean to sound like a 4chan guy, but having so many normie fans is destroying what we enjoyed about anime in the first place. I totally disagree. I think that there's tons of good stuff coming out. It's just not coming out in the traditional way. When you watch all the new shows that come out in a season, you're going to be overwhelmed by seasonal garbage. But like Netflix, Devilman Crybaby just dropped out of nowhere all at once and was just like a thing that exists. Agretzko as well, also a good show. Both of those came out this year, you know. We've had sleeper hits, Stuff like Last Period, Hisone Tomaso-tan, which are the only shows I've even started this season, and this is supposed to be a good season, but, like, I enjoy those two shows. You know, last season was bad, I thought. Like, I ended up dropping almost everything. There was not much to offer me, and I really ended up feeling like, wow, anime's shit now. You know, like, that's kind of the why I made, like, We Have Accepted Mediocrity, is I didn't find anything to like that season, really. But, you know, I don't think that means that anime is bad. There's been bad seasons forever. There's never been, like, a time where it was all good. There's been much worse periods, and I think a lot of new fans are coming into the fold who are curious about the greats. You know, I think that right now, in this period where anime that's coming out now isn't that great, it's a time that we need to look back and reflect and, you know, give more deference to the stuff that we think is good so that we can inspire people to take influence from that, you know, and to remember, like, what has been done in the past that was so exceptional, and then, you know, but not necessarily to try to just go back and replicate that. I mean, there's lots of anime that's doing brand new stuff. That show 2B Heroine, the sequel to 2B Hero, that is like a Chinese made show. I watched the first episode of that, and it was the most excited I've been for a new TV anime in forever, because it was just pure postmodern irreverent insanity in a way that light novels don't even dream of being. So, yeah, there's some fun stuff going on. I'll Die Without Pie says, I wouldn't eat that burger. I haven't heard anyone else saying that the broken algorithm is good because it forces people to find more diverse forms of monetization and discourages content created for the purpose of gaming the system. More people should think like this. Also, trim your nails. Done! Simba Andrew says, oh look, another Digi series that'll only last one episode. Defeated! Digital Fear 117 says, oh fuck, I watched the whole thing and it was still entertaining somehow. I thought the point you brought up about Foley artists was interesting. Things in that vein go unnoticed because no one talks about it or no one creates an environment to talk about it. That is something I never really thought about. The ending was really funny though. I actually didn't finish going on the point I was starting at the beginning of that section of the video about how animators had become famous, because I was trying to explain that, like, you know, I used to use Anime News Network to find out, like, who worked on a show and stuff, but, like, there was very little way to know what these people actually did, because there were not a lot of translated interviews with anime creators. There was not a lot of just knowledge about how production works in general, like how even animation happens, what different stages it goes through. And there's a site called AniPages that's been around forever that was vastly more informed than anyone else in the English-speaking community about, like, the actual background of anime since the early 2000s. They've been a huge deal. They're part of pretty much like the backbone of why the Sakuga community in the West is able to exist now, because, like, animators like Bahi JD, who used to read AniPages back in the day and watch Sakuga AMVs, are now major animators working on major productions, and they can speak English and share more info with us. And as animators become closer friends and have their community on Twitter, and we can kind of observe that and, you know, learn about it as animators have become personalities, and it's quite easy to, you know, get your key animation together into a little GIF and post it on Twitter, and it's going to impress people right away, and they're going to know who you are. So, you know, that's why animators eventually did become, like, celebrities. And, like, people like Yutaka Nakamura and Hiroyuki Imaishi, like, those guys I used to look at as just, like, random niche people in anime that I was the only person who had heard of. Like, I had seen some of their AMVs and I had them on, like, my favorite people list, and I didn't know anything about them, like, as individuals. But, you know, over the years, these guys have now become, like, titans, people who are considered legends of anime, and, like, nobody even knew who they fucking were 10 years ago in the Western sphere. So, like, you know, we haven't had that for something like Foley because it's not as easy to do that with. And, you know, I would really like to see, you know, some people just maybe make videos explaining how it works or the process or what they do uniquely, and maybe we'd be able to do a better job breaking down what good and bad Foley is. We need more people calling out anime using stock sound effects or the constant fucking over-compression of voice acting. PA Works is bad about that. Their shows always have, like, way over-compressed audio that sounds like dick. No one calls them out on it, except for me just now, so there you go. Dominic Lambeth, you should at least look into SEO yourself. It could help your channel growth. You don't have to hire someone to do it for you. Yeah, no, nobody should have to hire someone for an SEO. It's literally the easiest thing in the world. You go to My Anime List and you click on the current season, and then you sort by how many members have seen it, and this is how Pedantic Romantic grew their entire channel. And how I did a lot of my growth as well. That's why I chose the Asterisk War to talk about, because it was like the show that had the most viewers on Mal at the time. And everyone kept being like, why are you picking on Asterisk War? It's just some dumb show nobody watched. Yeah, it was like the biggest fucking show of the season for a little while, so, you know, there's a reason it's got millions of views. I know how to SEO because I'm not a fucking mindless idiot. But alright, moving over to the Twitter. Ethan Dixon, I really liked this podcast, and I'm sure you guys will do one on Spirited Away. This is in response to Ghibli Cast, not even in response to the last episode. But I was wondering if you could re-upload your Spirited Away analysis. It got deleted and I really liked it. It's back up. I know it's on the Patreon at least, in the deleted videos archive. Personally, I don't even really like it that much. I'll probably do a much better job on that podcast. We just did a commentary on it, on that video, on the commentaries that me and Devu do on Patreon, and I was pretty harsh on it. Are you continuing the Most Interesting Thing series? No, it was a huge failure. Here's some good ones. The Great Bastino says, so I managed to just barely survive the first 30 minutes of boring, obvious stuff, and then ended up getting more Anti-Tubers behind-the-scenes trivia and Digibra calling out the system and Mother's Basement. LOL, well, apart from the initial 30 minutes, this was good. So I take it that not only you, but even members of the PCP take issue with Mother's Basement SEO guide tactics. Man, $600 a month. Anyways, I see that you seem to be really concerned about always reinventing yourself and not being formulaic, Digibra, but for the next GEKKO State, just make it tighter and have less meandering. Your music industry tangent in the beginning, though it seemed like good analogy to show the changes of time and systems, hence relevant talk about YouTube changes the subscription system, I think you could have achieved the same effect with a shorter runtime. I know it's a ranty vlog, but seriously, I enjoyed everything you talked about post a 32-minute timestamp. I completely agree. I thought that it was too long. I thought the beginning of my rant was very slow, and that the only reason that it had enough energy to even propel through that early part is that the opening had been quite so manic. But hopefully with this video, I've toned down the, there was a long story section in the middle of this, but I think it was for good reason, and I think you'll all appreciate the level of depth I went into about at least those details. But there's definitely some stuff I'm trying to learn better, like what is interesting information and what is not. That is something that I've always had difficulty parsing because of the fact that some members of my audience will watch basically anything I put out. But, when I went through that span of just releasing like untold amounts of stuff last November, that really gave me the opportunity to like really see what people resonate with and what people just don't care about. And I've seen that people don't like when I chop up my vlogs too much. People like there to be longer, unbroken segments because it feels more natural and it feels more conversational. But at the same time, if stuff is boring, it's boring. So, I try to hit a good balance. That's all the response I saw on YouTube and Twitter. I'm not going everywhere because I was going to dedicate more time to this segment, but I just want to wrap up this video now. So, I'll see you in episode 3 of the GEKKO State, which has not yet had a determined subject. This one I already knew it was going to be the unfinished business episode, but I have a bunch of ideas for potential next ones. So stick around for that. Follow the goddamn every YouTube video featuring Digibro playlist, because the only way you're going to be guaranteed to see at least all the shit I post on YouTube. You're definitely not going to see all my content because shit gets removed, so you need to be on the Patreon, and shit gets, shit gets uploaded to SoundCloud and other places too.